Woomy. Shut up.
Well, day one of PAX West 2022 is over, and we got what we came for. We got to all play Splatoon 3, thanks to Nintendo. A lot more than they have on the show floor. They actually took us back for a private meeting. We got to play single player, we got to play Salmon Run, and we got to do some Turf War. So we're here to talk about our initial impressions of the game ahead of its release on September 9th, and give you guys kind of a deeper dive into the world of squids and kids and Octo-kid? Is it an octo-kid?
Octolings and mammalians and, yeah.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it's a squid kid. What is an octo-kid?
You're right.
That doesn't sound cool.
That's not nearly as... You don't have that that rhyming. That doesn't
They need
work.
to fix that.
Yeah.
First piece of feedback. Get us an official name for octo-kids. But Ash, I'm going to start with you, man.
Yeah.
So we all played together, but before we got into multiplayer, we got to play some single player. What was your take from that?
It felt very much like the single player from previous, Splatoon single player campaigns, which is a good thing. I had a great time. I've always really enjoyed Splatoon single player, and one thing I noticed right away, and not surprising at all, the writing is already on point. Like, we've always known that the writing in Splatoon's great. It's really sharp, it's really funny and just cheeky, and right off the bat, you can tell the writing is just as good as it's ever been. And we only got to play 3 stages, but just those 3 stages, it pulled me in. And as you all know, I'm a pretty casual Splatoon guy. I like it, but I'm not like a hardcore Splatoon player. But I already wanted to play more of this story mode. I can't wait. It's just already so fun. And I can't wait. I'm super excited.
Yeah, I have to agree. We played the first 2 stages in order, and then they let us skip several and play like the 9th stage of the first level.
1-1, 1-2, and 1-9.
Yeah, and there's some interesting mechanics in there, but I kind of got the impression, which is funny because y'all know that I can find the Octo expansion to be incredibly frustrating, but I thought that Splatoon 3's single player reminded me a bit of like an easier, more forgiving version of Octo expansion. Daniel, what was your take on it? How did you feel about the single player content that we played?
Yeah, I think what we were playing here really reminded me of the better parts of what we had in single player content for Splatoon 1 and 2. Definitely, it's a lot more forgiving than Octo expansion because that's meant to be a bit more advanced for players that are used and have already completed the original Splatoon 2's campaign. But yeah, I really liked how they structured how we were guided through the Splatoon 3's single player campaign so far. We had a chance to do the first stage, which is you all have to use the same weapon, your default weapon, and then we had to use in the second stage we were able to pick whatever we wanted to. There was a few other weapons, and I chose the Brella. And I was the only one that was choosing the Brella. They were wondering why I was choosing the Brella because there was other options available. But it was actually really good for that stage. There's different options for different weapons that you choose, and it's really cool that they have it structured that way that you can kind of adapt to which way you want to play. I particularly like the one where you can use the tri-stringer.
The tri-stringer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love the bow and arrow. I use that most of the time when we were doing the Splatfest, and just the way that it's a tutorial to really get you used to using that weapon was really cool. I feel like I understood it a lot better, even though I got a lot of time with it just through the Splatfest. But yeah, it's just the single player is a really good way, as always, for people to comfortably test out a weapon before they actually begin to use it in a multiplayer setting.
The world area layout is also a lot different. Like, I don't know if you guys got a look at the map, but it looked like there was 6 interconnected islands rather than just like 8 different maps that had level points on it. Like, you're not just moving from level to level, you're progressing through little islands that open up as you go.
And yeah, they open up because initially they're like covered about all this gunk, right? And you have to clear away the gunk. It kind of reminded me, and I told one of our Nintendo reps this. It kind of reminded me of like the Splatoon version of clearing away Malice in Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
Weirdly enough, it was really cool. And and you mentioned the tri-stringer, and that was a bit tricky for me at first because I played that level as well, of course. And I didn't realize at first that the bolts themselves do very little damage. It's the explosions after they hit a surface that do the most damage with the tri-stringer.
Yeah,
so it's a little bit tricky. Until you get your head wrapped around that aspect of it. And then I was just, splatting fools left and right. But
what I like about Splatoon though is like in that specific instance, like I didn't figure that out while I did that level. Like I told you because I watched Daniel do it.
Right.
So what I ended up doing is you had curling bombs as your sub. So what I did is I would hide in the ink and throw a curling bomb. It would cause the enemies to look away so their shields aren't covering them.
Nice.
And then I'd kill them that way. And one of the reps said that they didn't even think of trying that.
That's so cool.
To kill the
That's
enemies.
funny.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can kind of play your own way.
Nice.
Yeah,
I love that.
There's definitely a lot of choice there, and I really liked the level design, particularly in the stage where we got to use the tri-stringer, because they lined up enemies in such a way that you would come to the natural realization that when you jump with the tri-stringer, you shoot vertically versus horizontally.
Yeah.
And I really liked that. I already knew that because I used it in the Splatfest like you did, Daniel, and I knew about the explosions, but there were just some really clever elements to that, like you were implying, Ash, with the... I don't want to spoil it for anybody who's going to play it in like 3 days, but there are some really clever level design elements that make you use everything that those weapons can do that I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you touched on the fact that you could use, what's that guy's name? Your little guy.
The small fry.
Small fry.
Yeah,
That small fry is what eats the
gunk,
quote-unquote
or whatever it
malice,
is,
the
yeah.
gunk. It's all fuzzy and gross looking.
Yeah.
But it's really cool to see that element there. So there are parts of the world that are gated off, and without going too heavy into spoiler territory or anything, they did show us that there are alternate routes to kind of get around that and skip a bunch of levels in progression. So, like I said, we played the first 2 levels and then one that was later on, but it wasn't like somebody opening up a dev menu and jumping us forward a bunch of levels. They showed us a hidden route you could take to skip a bunch of levels, which was really cool. I really liked that.
That third level also let us use different weapons, which I thought was interesting.
Right.
Because you can do that in the Octo expansion.
Yeah.
And you have to pay more, but I think you get more reward. In the level we did, it was even across the board, but I kind of wonder how that's going to be as you get further along in the game.
Because you have your recommended heroes gear, but then you have 2 other selections that might make the level harder that you can optionally choose if you'd like for a greater challenge that aren't necessarily designed specifically for the level in question, like the hero's gear would be.
Yeah, it's kind of a nice blend with what the original campaign of Splatoon 2 was and what Octo Expansion did.
Yeah.
And for me, that's exciting because I liked Octo Expansion a lot more than the core single player. It was very similar to the first game, but I get the impression this is going to be a very different experience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it feels like a much refined version of what we got in Octo Expansion, and thankfully not as brutally difficult, at least not early on. So I'm excited to play it. But we didn't get to spend too much time in single player, where we spent the vast majority of our time with Splatoon 3 today playing multiplayer modes. And the one multiplayer mode that we haven't really gotten to talk about because nobody's really gotten to touch it yet is Salmon Run.
Yeah.
And if you know me, you know that Salmon Run is my favorite thing in Splatoon 2. And my one wish was that it would be available all the time, and thankfully now it is. And just like Splatoon 2, there are different rules for, whether you're playing on local wireless versus online. And thankfully, just like Turf War, you can play it online with your buddies. So I was super thrilled. Just that enough was enough to sell me on Splatoon 3 by itself. But we all got to hop in and play a couple of rounds, and I gotta say, we killed it. Like, we were so good at this. We were so good at this.
Well, because they started us at 10% out of 200, right?
Yeah.
And they were like, we just want to make sure, like we're old pros at this. We know what we're doing.
We know.
So we ended up going up to, I think, to, was it 50%?
Yeah.
In our last round, and we killed it.
Was it 50 or 30?
I think it was 30, and then he said after we beat it that it should have been 50.
Oh, that's right, a 30.
Yeah, that's right, because they tripled the difficulty, and we crushed it even harder.
Yeah, because we got, in our last round, it was at 30%, we got 25 out of 12 eggs, I think.
Yeah, it was like a crazy overhead.
Like over double what we were supposed to get.
Yeah.
And, man, I love that new egg throwing mechanic.
That's
so
good.
Cool.
It changed everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, it adds a layer of complexity and strategy to Salmon Run that just wasn't there before. I would often kill a boss or grab an egg, and then I would just go halfway across the map and then line up a throw and throw it and go right back.
Yeah.
To say nothing of, and we did see a lot of repeat salmonids that we've seen in 2, but there were also a few new ones. Brandon, did anything stick out to you?
I liked the UFO one. It's up in the air, and there's just this tiny little salmonid on top that's the weak point. But you can't reach him because he's above you, so you gotta get to a high place and then shoot him down. I ended up killing one with a booyah bomb, I think, in our last run. I really liked that one, but the one that stood out to me the most were those giant
The mud mouth.
Yeah, they're so cool.
Was
They're-
it mud or muck mouth? I can't remember.
Maybe muckmouth. I like our name for them, which is splodongos, because they're like basically like dodongos. You have to throw like splat bombs in their mouths to kill them, and so I would just call them splodongos. I think that's a better name.
And what's cool about that is every time you blow up a splat bomb in their mouth, you get
An egg.
Yeah.
So you keep doing it to accumulate this massive pile of eggs. In one of our rounds, I think I killed one on a high platform, and Daniel and I were both up there. So there was like 8 eggs, and we're just chucking them at the basket.
And that just, it just felt so good and natural because it just makes sense that you can throw them across either to teammates or straight into the basket itself.
At one point, somebody passed me an egg while I was dead.
Here, you take care of this.
Yeah.
You handle this.
Yeah.
But I guess then that means no one can steal it, so it's actually pretty strategic.
That's
to do
true.
that.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool. Like, I feel like you probably could have picked up eggs in Splatoon 2 when you were dead. I can't remember.
You can, yeah.
Okay.
But it feels much more natural to have the ability to throw them. Like, somebody can get you up and you can just chuck that egg away and keep going.
And it's nerfed in a way too, because like you have to have the same amount of ink that you would to throw like a sub weapon.
Yep.
So you can't just spam it. You have to be safe to do it.
Yeah, you have to be strategic about when you use that throw. The other thing I like is that I had a couple instances where I was right next to the basket and I'd see someone throw and it would fall short and I could just pick it up and put it in for you. And it was really cool. I really liked the muckmouth, mudmouth, splodongo, whatever they are. And there was a gold variation of those too. I think that's the one you killed that dropped a ton of eggs.
It dropped like 4 splat bombs in its mouth.
Yeah. And it doesn't even have to be splat bombs too. You can use like a super move, and those will also function the same way. I happen to just use the old one from Splatoon 1 where you have like the ink jet pack and you're firing like huge blasts.
Right.
I wish I could remember the name.
It is inkjet.
Oh,
Inkjet,
inkjet.
yeah.
Yeah. So I was using inkjet and I was firing into one of their mouths and they just kept dropping eggs. It was immensely satisfying.
What's interesting about the power-ups, I mean, just like in Splatoon 2, you'd have 2 specials for the entire 3 rounds, but there's a visual indicator on your character now.
Yeah, now
they
you have
have
these
pouches on their helmets.
Right.
And when you use one, you lose a pouch, so like, even if you're not looking up in the corner, you know if you've got one or not.
That's so cool.
So
I love
handy.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool. I think that, again, I think apparently we're not the only ones excited.
Yeah.
But the ghost in the room is also very thrilled about Splatoon 3. But I would say that this is probably still going to be my favorite mode. I love cooperative play. I generally enjoy co-op more than competitive gameplay. And I think that having the ability to just pair up with you guys anytime and hop in for some Salmon Run is going to be super addictive and really cool to play. But, I think that, for now, we only got to do 1 map. We only got to do 2 real whole sets. So there's not a lot for us to discuss on that. But, it was definitely interesting. I really, really enjoyed just those subtle changes that they've made and how much they impact, like, the team dynamic. And that's not even including the fact that we can now talk to each other. Like, we're going to know who we're playing with.
Right.
And we can actually, coordinate.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be a huge game changer.
So, like you said, those changes might be subtle, but they go so far. They make such a big difference that, I don't think this could have been a simple update.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
I want to say it's the old salmonid from 2 that would grow a huge bomb on its head.
Hammerhead, I think.
Hammerhead, I think is his name. I didn't manage to pull it off, but our PR rep mentioned to us that if you do the new squid roll, right when that explodes, you'll just take no damage.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I remember.
I was like,
they
that
mentioned
sounds
that.
amazing
Yeah.
to be able to just kind of
pull that off.
parry, huge attacks. So, do Evo moment 37 in Salmon Run. But Salmon Run was really fun. Of course, we had to end off with what is most familiar to every Splatoon fan, and that's Turf War. We got to play a bunch of Turf War.
Yeah.
And we got to play against actual Nintendo employees, which
did.
felt
From the treehouse.
just a little unfair. Just a little.
Well, I mean, we know they were using Game Genie. Come on, obviously.
Well,
they were.
they've been training for months just to beat us.
Yeah.
There was also
obviously.
one match where they were down a person and then down 2 people. We won that one.
Yeah,
We definitely did win that one.
We definitely won. I do have to point out that we did take a match.
We did.
We did.
When they were
Like a
fully
legitimate-
staffed.
We did.
When the
Legitimate win.
treehouse.
And it wasn't
handedly
barely
staffed.
either. It was it was a solid win.
It was like
Yeah.
a 12% lead.
Yeah.
So I just want to say we're tied up right now, Treehouse. So
Exactly.
If you want a rematch.
yeah, if you want to run it back,
Going down to Demetrius.
we're gonna need to even the odds. You guys are gonna have to stop playing for several months, and we're gonna need to start playing for several months.
Yeah, you
Right.
got an advantage.
Yeah.
We came in
Exactly.
fresh.
We're always fresh.
Exactly.
It's Splatoon we're talking about here, but yeah, we got to do a little bit more with Turf War than we got to do with the Splatfest because we actually got to decide our loadouts, like change our clothes, and while the weapon layout was exactly the same as what we saw, there was the fact that we could actually see some of the new equipment and use that to our advantage.
We could change our shirts, which you couldn't do in the Splatfest.
Right.
That's right.
That's yeah.
So we got to customize the skills a little bit more. I was happy to have that because I think it definitely helped me.
Yeah, absolutely. Daniel, how did you feel? You were kind of you were one of our most powerful members on our during the Splatfest. How did you find the ability to actually like change your skill loadout this time? Did it help you?
Yeah, I've been using that tri-stringer a lot since it came out, and I'm getting a little bit better with it every time I try. And they were noticing too, like, oh, nice shot, like just being able to. There's a lot of assists with that one. I think I do a lot of assists with that weapon in particular. But it's really cool to be able to, like with Salmon Run and with Turf War, just know that you can have your friends there and communicate. When you're able to communicate with a game like this, it completely changes like how you play it entirely. Instead of just kind of relying on visual cues to react to your allies and your enemies.
Yeah, I was using the Tacticooler, which drops drinks that
Yeah.
give everybody buffs, and I was yelling it out.
You
every
kept saying
time.
drinks down, drinks down. Yeah.
Who's thirsty?
Yeah.
Who's thirsty? I did hear that.
Yeah.
If I saw drinks in the machine still, I got angry. Take your dang drinks.
Brandon, our
Yeah.
toxic teammate over here.
I still mainly played it safe with the aerospray myself because, as y'all know, I'm more of a turf inker. I'm not very good at splatting other people. I'm good at inking turf, so I mainly played it safe. But for one game, I did rediscover my love of sloshers. I did forget how much I loved using sloshers in Splatoon 2, and so I did rediscover my slosher love for one of the matches we played. But I mostly just inked turf with the aerospray and just tried to support as much as I could. But it's Turf War. It's that of all the stuff we played today, Turf War was obviously the most similar to what we've already played in the Splatfest World Premiere because it was just all Turf War, right?
Yeah.
So that was the most familiar of everything we did today compared to playing single player and Salmon Run. But it was all fun. And we were all just laughing the whole time, having a great time.
great.
That hour flew by.
I will
did.
say of the it was actually an hour and a half, which is
That's true,
how-
actually, yeah.
Oh,
There you
It,
go.
Yeah.
it definitely flew by, but I will say of all the games we played, everyone in the room was the most animated during Turf War. Like,
Oh, yeah.
there was
yeah,
actual mess being talked between the treehouse and us.
Oh, that's fun.
Just the dirty stares whenever you splat somebody leaning on the
Yeah.
side. Just
I remember specifically at one point, one of the treehouse reps was getting attacked by Daniel, and I saw it, so I like came in behind him and started inking him from behind and took him out. And he was like, "That was dirty."
Yeah.
It's definitely a lot of fun. I wish there was a way to play 8-player Splatoon like in person more often because that was a
right.
ton of fun.
that's great.
One of the things that I didn't quite realize, and I'm sure that they touched on it like in a previous direct or something, was the ability to charge a wall jump so that you could like get on the ink on a wall and then you just hold the jump button and it'll charge you up and you'll, no matter how tall that wall is, you'll rocket
Yeah,
right to
all
the
the
top
way.
of it.
I didn't know about that.
And I think, like the squid roll, it gives you just a very slight amount of ink resistance.
Yeah.
So you can use it if there's like an enemy at the top platform and you want to get in there and not instantly die. You have an option for that now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, Brandon, you pointed out something to me toward the end where I think it was you mentioned that you can charge up the splat bomb or the pipe bombs. Because we had the pipe bombs.
You shake them like a soda. And then
Yeah, and then they explode more than once if you do
Yeah.
that, which is really cool. And so you told me about that toward the end, and there's just, as always, there's it's so fun to pick up and play, but there's so much hidden depth in Turf War and Splatoon in general, right? And it's just so much fun. We had a great time, and as that's coming from a casual Splatoon fan, I was just having a blast. Laughing and talking smack, and it was just it was great. It was a lot of fun, and I can't wait. It's less than a week out to release from the time we're recording this.
I think we should mention too that we since we were playing local wireless, we were at the Shoal instead of the main online lobby.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which is its own complete lobby that we can walk around, just like the online one. It has its own training area. That's a different design setup. and it has a place to play cards. I went around the corner and there's
cool.
one of those card stations there. I don't know, it's just really lively. I'm glad that it had its own dedicated kind of feel to it.
Yeah. And it had sit-down arcade games too, like those old sit-down Pac-Man arcade games. Yeah. You couldn't play them, but it was just kind of cool decor.
And like in the online, you can see everybody's holograms. Except this time we had 8 holograms, and I kept saying, "Hey, it's a party."
Yeah. It was really cool to see that. I really loved the lobby design. But yeah, nothing beats Turf War. Like, I feel like it's such a fun mode to play. It's fast-paced, frenetic, and they've. We talked a lot about it when we were playing the Splatfest, but it holds true, even after a week to reflect and ruminate on it. They really did improve the flow of the game so much. You never feel like you're out of it for too long. Like, you're always just waiting for your chance to get back in there. Jumping to teammates is way more satisfying than it was before, and easier, it feels like. It feels like it's easier to get in there without just getting immediately splatted by someone.
I was watching my friend Joe just a few days ago play Splatoon 2 because there was a strong desire to play Splatoon after the Splatfest for 3. And it just looks so radically different. It looks so much slower. Like, you die and you're just staring at a screen for 5 seconds.
There's something about being able to choose where you land that adds so much more energy to just spawning in a static place. Like, being able to choose where to go, it adds so much more. And it's just
that slingshot animation feels good.
Even the beginning of each match, it gets you a little more hyped up than I've ever been in previous Splatoon games, because you're all just launching into the map at the same time together, in key with the music. The music starts at the same time. We all go bam, and then we're into the map, and it just gets you pumped up. You want to go, as opposed to, as you just said, just spawning in a single place every time. It just makes you feel more getting right into the action. It's more visceral, and I love that about it.
One of the things I really like about that, too, is there is a hidden layer of strategy to that. Because, as someone who also tries to focus more on inking than taking people out, especially with these 2 killers on the team, I can look for places, like, if you're going off to the left, I can look to see if ink is needed on the other side of our home base and just launch right where it's needed and start inking immediately. So I really like that kind of subtle complexity that they've added to the strategic element of the game. So I'm deeply excited. Like you said, we've got less than a week. I'm picking this up minute 1. Like, this is one of those ones where I'm going to pre-order it on the eShop and just wait for that timer to go down. I cannot wait to pick it up. But do any of us have any additional thoughts before we close this out?
I think we pretty much covered it.
Splatoon.
Go ahead.
Splatoon 3 is just so confident in itself, like in its presentation, in its art direction, and everything that it does. And it's been true since Splatoon 1. It always has that really playful 90s vibe to it, from its its whole street theme, and just the whole street art, having people being able to do the continued spiritual successor to Miiverse, just drawing your art on there.
Oh, I love that.
It always adds so much personality, especially at the Splatfest.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that it's just retained that going all the way to Splatoon 3.
And if you had any concerns about Splatoon 3 being too similar to Splatoon 2, I don't think you have anything to worry about.
Yeah,
there's a lot going on here. It's worth the upgrade.
Underneath, on the surface, it looks kind of similar, but underneath it, there's a lot of mechanics that you have to kind of adapt to now and learn.
Yeah, I agree. It feels like a worthy successor. It feels like there's enough new there to warrant it being a whole new numbered title instead of an expansion or a DLC. It looks a lot better, in my opinion. Visually, it's a more impressive game than Splatoon 2. And just every single improvement so far, in my opinion, has made this new game leagues better than the original, or than Splatoon 2.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's about it. Thank you guys so much for watching. We're gonna have much more on Splatoon 2 when it does release on September 9th.
Splatoon 3.
Or Splatoon 3. Wow, after I'm like, it's so different. We're gonna have a ton more on Splatoon 3 right here on the channel once it launches on September 9th. Thanks to Nintendo for letting us take an early look at the game here at PAX West 2022. We have 4 more days of PAX West 2022 to go through, or 3 more days.
3 more days.
A number of days. And we'll be having, much more from the show floor to discuss with you guys, more cool stuff to share, hopefully a ton of indies that we can look at. Stay tuned to GVG for much more on all things gaming. And if you feel like supporting us, head over to patreon.com/gvgaming to find out more about how you can get access to the best damn Discord community on the internet, a ton of other tiers that are available if you'd like some exclusive benefits or even some exclusive merch. But until next time, guys, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Stay fresh.
Tune in again.